Call the meeting to order. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, at this time, I will move to approval of tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. So we're just gonna go down. Okay, so we will start at, I guess there's just one item. You're the introduction.
You start with that, and then it goes on from there.
Okay, sounds good.
So in your possession, you have a number of pieces of information, just to kind of give you a rundown of where we are financially. So you will see just a couple of breakdowns. Didn't want to try to do all of it because it gets kind of confusing, but there's a breakdown of the general fund, what we have monthly in sales tax, and then what we have monthly on average in the use tax. And just a couple of ways for you to see how we are financially. It's somewhat of a barometer. You also have an ARPA funds expenditure, what's remaining in the ARPA funds. We'll be going through that a little more by the end of the year because we'll probably have to look at reallocating where those funds are. You also have the list. This is the street list for repaving. We had gone through that a month ago. And then the biggest item is the biggest piece of paper, which is the budget overview. So this is a rundown of everything that we'll talk about tonight. Oh, I forgot one thing. You also have the requests. So this is what the requests look like from the departments. These are the capital items or the large ticket items. And that's what everybody is going to be going through, discussing with the board. But first thing I like to do is run down an overview of the budget so you have an idea where we are financially. So with this budget, you work your way left to right, top, and then eventually down to the bottom. On the top part, the top section, because you'll see it that's broken up into multiple blocks. The top two blocks are the general fund and the revenue and expenditures for that. So that's administration, code enforcement, fire, police. On the bottom, you have the enterprise or dedicated funds. So these are funds that get money directly from property tax or with the water sewer department, they're enterprise funds, which are business funds. And those have to have a balance of what comes in and goes out. So revenue has to meet expenditures, and you have to also plan for the future. So we'll get down to that. But if you start on the left of the general fund where it is a pink color, we have an unaudited balance of about $1.3 million. If you move to the next column to the bottom, we anticipate a revenue of $2.6 million. If you go all the way over to the right, where you see fund balance 2025, you'll see what the remaining balance is at 1,158,425. That's with all the expenses that you see on top. And then we put other capital improvements on the bottom. Those are they're usually particular to some large project. We've only got a couple of things in there that total 127,108. Leaves us a deficit of 294,578, as you can see in the red. Our total that we estimate for the end of the year is at 1,031,000, which is, if you see bottom of that, is 40% of the reserves that we have available. So we look at a couple of things. One is, if you go back to the upper left, you see the green, where it has 77,864. We are at this point not overspending what our revenues are. This is one of the problems with. And this is the fourth of these, the fourth draft that I've gone through to try to get us to good numbers. Excuse me. So we are at 77,864. That's where we are operationally. So that puts us in good shape. But on the bottom, on the right, where we have 40%, the ordinance calls for having no less than 50% of whatever our remaining revenues are, or what our unaudited balance is. We can't have less than 50% of reserves. So we're at a we're in an issue with that because with the fund low like that and having to have 50%, we either have to go through and cut more, and that number is $255,000, or we can move money from the capital projects, because we have moved $650,000 out of general fund into capital projects. You could move money back just to be used as a cushion, just to leave it in there. Or you can revise that ordinance and allow a reduced amount of capital reserves, or I should say fund reserves. So that's kind of where we are with the general fund at this point, needing some guidance on that to see how we want to do that. So why are we in this shape, you ask? Well, that's a good question. So in the last year, we did a lot of updating of equipment. We kind of talked about this at the last work session, but we've tacked on a lot of yearly renewal costs. That's where everybody's going now. Tasers, body cameras, building department software, IT, cybersecurity, everything is renewable. Everything, it's a software or subscription-based type service. So that's hit us. Dispatch costs went up. We're at 121,000. And then when the tax passed, it was increased to 189,000. We didn't realize the increase, and because we were then starting to pay monthly instead of yearly. And then when we finally got to looking at the full amount, it's like, why are we paying so much more? Well, when the sales tax passed, the tax that was on phones went away. So that was supplementing some of what the county was paying and supplementing our part of the dispatch. So we have an agreement with the St. Genevieve 911 board until December. At this point, they're still asking for the 15.6, I think is what it is every month. But we're committed to that. We're committed to that through December. At that point, we may have to negotiate a little bit.
We only agreed to do that for 1 year, correct?
They said it would probably be up to 5 years.
Yeah, but we only
agreed up to
1 year to start. See what it looked like after.
Yep.
What was that amount again, Happy?
It's a total of 189,000. We end up spending 15,600 a year.
We're about 60, 70 more.
Yep. Yeah, it was significant.
I'm sorry. So what is it? 60 or 70 roughly?
It's 189 minus 121. I left my calculator on my
68.
58, 78,000.
Yeah, 70 posted.
We adjusted salaries because we did the salary survey. We adjusted all the salaries. So that impacts us year to year. Liability and casualty insurance rose 40%, and that's impacting all departments, but that was a significant increase. Take-home vehicles for police officers, we have started that as an incentive and kind of a retention type policy. Pay incentive increases for firefighters. Plus we had in there, but I've pulled that out at this point, but we had a part-time part-time fire chief salary. And then the ARPA funds are running out. So that helped us in some of the reserves because we were spending that as we went along. So that money has now been spent and it is not in the reserves anymore. So again, with that 50% requirement, we are under that requirement at this point. So we also have a couple other things you can think of. So we talk about with the take-home vehicles, we also have a $6,000 a year payment that we make to the Chamber of Commerce, $500 every month. I'm not sure what that is for exactly. For economic development, for however that started at one time, we still have to pay our dues and we still have to pay for tickets to the game. So that doesn't get us anything extra from them. It's just a payment that we make.
Well, but that helped offset the insurance saving. You said we saved on the health insurance, so there was a substantial reduction because we joined that group.
Right.
Right.
So And if that's what the payment's for, that's great. So that's the upper area. That's where we're in trouble. So those are the things we'll talk about here in a little bit, once we get through everybody's presentation. So moving down to the other enterprise dedicated funds, if you just move left to right, you'll see where we start.
Before you start on those subscriptions, that was the first thing you talked about, the additional subscriptions and services. Do you have an estimate of, or an idea of what that's costing us additional now per year?
So we're up to probably about 45,000 extra.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, so on the bottom part, dedicated funds. So dedicated means that, again, with the tax, these are, let me go back. General fund can be used in any fund. So whatever we raise in sales tax, property taxes in the general fund, we can use it anywhere. We can use it in water, sewer, we can use it in parks, we can use it on streets. But if it's an enterprise or dedicated fund, it has to stay in that fund. It has to be spent for that purpose. So we have a parks tax, street sales tax, which is a transportation tax, the tourism tax, band fund, cemetery fund, special road district occasionally gives us some money, and I'll cover that in another meeting. Water and sewer are enterprise funds. So again, those are business funds. The downtown TIF is just another revenue source that we have that we distribute money from. Debt service is where we pay for, right now we're paying for a number of, there's equipment that we bought. I think it was certificate of participation. And the Prop S money will go into the debt service to pay off that when it becomes time for us to start that process. Rural fire is fire tags, and capital projects is just remaining sales tax money from was from the levy at one time. It's been dedicated to be able to be used for capital projects, and that is also any department that can be used in. So you see where we start. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but we're in pretty good shape on all of them except water. Water needs to have a rate analysis. We'll talk about that when I get into the requests. But we need to look at that. Park is usually not as, doesn't have a balance of 179,000 usually. That's ARPA money that has not been spent yet. Once we get the restroom and get all that installed, that will decrease, but there'll still be a balance left in that. So that actually helps our general fund a little bit because we usually have to move money from general fund into parks. Any questions? No, it's a lot to hit you with, but. So what we're going to do is go through with each department head, gives you a chance to ask questions, kind of discuss things about the department if you want, but mostly they're here to either talk about what you'll see on this proposed capital items is that we have requests and we have recommendations. So the recommendations come from me. You're the ultimate arbitrator or arbiter in this decision-making, not me. I'm just giving you my recommendation. Mostly in general fund, I did that because of what I've brought the number down to, which is the 40% mark. What I would like the board then to do is consider that as well, but that's what the department heads get the opportunity to say, these are important and we think that they need to be retained. And that's not my final decision, it's the board's final decision. So we'll start off tonight. We've got the agenda on the TV there. So we're going to start with the police department and Chief Crump.
As you can see, on our capital items, we've already cut flock cameras out. I don't know who cut flash the radios out, but that's to make our digital handhelds compatible when we go to digital radios in January. So that's been taken out, so I guess our guys will not communicate with dispatch once we come January 1st when we're out of the car. So I have no idea who done that or why, but that one's out. Ballistic vest. Vest have a shelf life of 5 years. At 5 years, manufacturer suggests replacing them. So we have 6 vests that'll need replaced. That's why that's in there. And then the 2 vehicles is to go along with our vehicle replacement. As far as that, going through line items, for the most part, other than the yearly expenses like we had talked about with the cameras and the tasers, most of our items that we could cut, I've cut down to bare minimum. There was an increase in a couple, one of them being memberships and dues. That's to like the Lexipol, the FOP, our Jeffco for training. That's all the membership things. I'll answer any questions.
The request is to put back in the flash for the radios.
So when that needs to be there?
We'll have no communication outside the car when they go to digital. If they're still on track to go January 1, we'll have no communication whatsoever outside the vehicle.
But you say that's just when they leave the car, though,
Correct.
right? Yeah, well,
Because we already have the mobile. We purchased all them on grants.
How many radios is that for?
11, one for each officer. We have the radios now. We just need the update the software and there was something else they had to add to them to make them digital compliant.
Would you give any thought to just having a smaller number of radios per shift? Like, is that even workable? Like a person would come on shift, come here, pick up a radio, carry with them on shift?
And you're just going to get half the life out of it because, I mean, it's going to be, and then you're going to be buying extra batteries because you're going to have downtime to charge them. But I mean, if that's what it comes down to, then I mean, we'd have to have a minimum of probably 5 done so that we can have them per shift.
What's the most officers you have on shift at any one time?
Through the daytime would be 5 would be max, and that's counting.
What
That's
about
counting
big
me here.
events? If you had a big event,
Big event like Judafet will have our duty cars plus 4 additional, so we'd have 6 to 7 on a big event.
You don't have a number tonight then, like what the plan, what the dollar amount would be if we pared that down to 5?
It's $1,000 a radio.
Okay.
Happy.
And if we needed to make a cut somewhere to compensate on memberships, we could cut out, if we needed to, we cut out the FOP membership and we could cut out Police Chiefs Association membership, which would be probably $6,000 or $7,000. And the FOP membership is just representation for the guys if they would get litigation while performing their job, the FOP will represent them through that litigation.
Didn't we discuss at last week's meeting the idea that maybe the 2 SUVs could be pushed into the next budget? Was there a thought about that? That you could-
What we included in there is the payment for the existing issues.
Existing, okay. So this here is for the existing, the 90,000? Okay.
Now, what we think we could do is the payment may not be due until the next budget year, so it wouldn't be due until fiscal year 26.
Right. But that's just semantics, right? I mean, it's not really solving a problem. It's just kicking the can down the road. Okay.
Jason, talking about vehicles and stuff, you know, since I guess we've kind of weeded out a lot of the older stuff. I mean, are they lasting longer? I know we're adding the additional miles on it.
Maintenance wise, we've had no issues with maintenance other than your standard oil changes, brakes and tires.
Tires,
Other than
okay.
that, we're not doing any maintenance on them.
I mean, is that something, I mean, the ballistic vest given, the radios are given, cameras, you know, fine, but, you know, what if, and I know we've been on a 2 vehicle thing for some time and stuff. What if that went to 1 vehicle? I mean, would that just disrupt the whole?
We could look at doing a different rotation to extend them out. The SUVs seem to last a little bit longer than the Chargers and the
Right.
Impalas when we initiated it. It's just coming up with what is that what is that balance? And even if we put because I talked to Happy about putting a mileage on them and just mileaging them out, but the problem is that you may go a year or two and not buy one, and then a year that you need to buy 5. And, so then you've really got a problem. So we could definitely adjust and look at maybe instead of trying to push them to 5 years, push them to 6 years a car or 7 years a car until we find where that balance is before we start having maintenance issues.
Right, I mean, not abandoning the whole program, but I'm just asking,
No, I think it could be extended
right?
a little bit right now.
To your
Because it
point,
just seemed like,
to your point, like, so last year we budgeted 10 grand for vehicle operation no, I'm sorry, for vehicle repair and maintenance. We budgeted 10, but we've already spent almost 30.
We had a couple accidents from the deer accidents, and that all come out of our budget, but then the insurance writes a check back to the city to go into general fund, but it doesn't reflect on our line item.
Okay.
So 100% of both repairs were out of our vehicle maintenance line item.
But we just paid the deductible and probably were reimbursed for.
Correct. You were reimbursed everything but deductible on both.
The other one, like you said, your membership and dues, last year you were at 10,000 and this year you're at 22,000. That's the only one that I saw. Your salary slightly went down.
And I don't think I know we didn't add anything to membership. I think for years there was probably membership dues that were just being taken out of other areas. We have,
Go for it.
Okay.
I think the bigger portion of that was Alexipol. When we went to Alexipol last year, probably would have been the first year that we saw that come to fruition. I think that would probably be
What is
the
that?
biggest jump in that membership cost.
yeah. So that would be 10,000 of it would be the Lexipol, the annual membership to Lexipol.
Lexipol is,
Our policy and procedure. They're the ones that keep it up to date. And
I'm sorry, Bob, but I wanted, while you were talking about vehicles and maintenance, Bob, I jumped in there, but did you finish your question or your thought on?
well, just in looking for ways to, to possibly, and I don't want to get off that we have to do 5 vehicles.
No,
That would be,
I agree. We can probably push it out, and we're not in bad shape right now with vehicles. If we need to push it off until next year and add a vehicle, I have no problems with that. At some point, we're going to find where that sweet spot is where we start having maintenance
Right.
issues with them. We just haven't found it yet because we've been keeping them rotated out.
because it just seemed like these vehicles now compared to the old LTDs and stuff like that.
Oh, they're definitely, SUVs are definitely lasting a lot
Right.
longer.
And, talking about the take home and stuff, I know, wasn't there like an initial $4,000 amount for fuel? Are we pretty close to that? Or do we monitor that?
I don't know, Sue may have the numbers of what the increase has been.
I'm not asking to take that away, I'm just looking to see how
Yeah.
compared to the number we targeted.
Because I know when we figured it, we tried to figure it on the high side, so I would be shocked if we're over what we figured.
There was about 8,000 difference, but then fuel went up as well.
Because I think initially we had figured 12,000 because I had printed out somewhere what I had presented to the board, and it was 12,000 increase on fuel is what we had initially had figured. And then we had figured the extra oil changes and tires and things like that, and I think I figured it then at 350 or something a gallon, so we should be under what we had originally projected.
We started it after the year, budget year,
So it wasn't a full year.
not a full year.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what month we started. I couldn't remember.
Something like that.
These 2 associations that you talked with, I mean, that's actual not training for the
The
office.
Police Chiefs Association will offer some training for police chiefs. They also offer, they keep you up to date on like practices and things like that on the administration side. The FOP is strictly representation of the guys themselves.
Right.
And the police chiefs, I think, is 1,000, and the FOP is it 4, 5, 6?
Chief, on your one of the last line items under grant expenses.
Yes.
And last year you were around 38,000, and this year it went up quite a bit.
That is actually what Happy had us do it a little bit different this year. So that's what money we anticipate we're going to ask for in grants, but then somewhere he showed that as revenue coming back in because those are zero match grants that we're asking for.
Oh, 0%?
Yeah.
So if you see grants, you'll have an income, you don't see the revenue part of it, you just see the expense.
And that, but you have to, that's for the total amount of the grant, or that's our match?
It's total.
Total amount of the grant?
It's
Yeah. So
total.
really, like on ours, it would be zeroed out because it's on the revenue side of it.
It's already been accounted for on the revenue.
I guess that'd be the one. That membership and dues would be a big one, and then there's the slight discrepancies on those flock cameras. On the, it says 13,000 on your capital outlay, and then there's a line item in the full budget for 15,000.
The one for 15,000 is the in-car and body camera yearly subscription. The flock cameras have been taken out.
Okay. So Happy, does this proposed large project, is this updated in here?
Yeah.
These be, okay.
So it's updated, yeah, it's updated based on my recommendation.
Yep.
These property assessor fees,
That's something she would have to answer, our Happy one.
That's the fees that we pay. We also pay it like in, general fund, band, cemetery.
And they're for them collecting the tax and
It's
then,
for them collecting the tax of the percent that we pay.
where we pay them for that much.
Your salaries actually went down, Chief, by $7,000. If you look at what adopted last year's budget versus this year's proposed budget, yeah, well, we still got 2 months out. I'm okay with that. That's good. That's good. But I would have thought it would have been even just a slight increase, but it's actually went down by $7,000 or $8,000.
We had more new officers start.
Oh, okay. Lower base pay.
Lower on the scale.
Yeah, makes sense.
I looked at that because last year we budgeted about 20,000 more.
And then all your insurances went up, your loggers, your hospitalization, life insurance, work comp, all that stuff. I'd have to get on the committee that worked on the insurance. I guess that Aldermen didn't sharpen their pencils too much on the insurance, I guess.
I think that was strictly health insurance, wasn't it?
Yeah. Didn't have a pencil in that one, Joe, wasn't me.
That was just health insurance.
Well, I didn't quite hear the answer. Bob was asking about the leases then, and I was digging into some of them. So the concept, we're 5 years now is what we typically try to turn a vehicle over?
Correct.
Or 60,000 miles or 5 years?
Just 5 years is what we're doing now, yeah. Like, so we had skipped a year several years back, but that's when we had the Impalas and the Chargers, and it ended up costing more in maintenance because we lost an engine, we lost the transmission. But like I said, I think the SUVs are lasting a little bit longer. It's something that we would be willing to try to extend it out and see if we can get an extra year or so.
What do you think would happen? Yeah, that might change your budgets quite a bit and then be able to kind of put those other items back in there for you.
But the SUVs are everywhere now, except really the highway patrol. You don't see a lot of them, but all the locals.
Yeah, just about everybody's going to SUV. The
Yeah.
patrol's getting more and more of them. I notice now they're getting the Durangos quite a bit too.
Right. But the local towns,
Yeah.
they pretty much all switched.
There's really no difference in cost either on them. You know, it'll be one of those, it'll be just trial and error, and find out where that sweet spot is on life of it.
What would that do to this year's budget if we tried to extend them out to?
I think he already has it figured without a vehicle, without the additional lease payment in there. His recommendation under the capital improvement items, he already has that lease payment for this year taken out.
Well, that doesn't help.
We've got multiple budgets to look at. Unless there's anything else coming in. Bring out the general fund, go over everybody in line and get into the city parks of people.
Thanks, Chief.
Uh-huh.
Evening, everyone.
When are you gonna start with, Steve?
We'll start with the parks,
Do you know what page that's on in the
13.
13?
Yeah, 12. That's awful. All right. Go over the capital improvement items for the park first. Still have the 42,000 for the ARPA. Park Board has discussed picnic tables numerous times. The 20,000 would give us all matching tables in Pierre Marquette Park, allow us to move some of our other tables to different areas of town that are still in good condition. We've got good response on the black picnic tables that we've purchased this past year at the big pavilion and the initial pavilion when you first pull in. So Park Board's plan is to make it all match. So that's where that comes in. Park benches as well. Park benches for throughout town and the parks as well. So
The ARPA funds, I'm sorry, Steve, you're the plan for the use of that?
the 42,000, that's the unspent.
It's the unspent amount of what was dedicated for the bathrooms has not been dedicated yet.
Do we have a time limit that we have to spend that?
No, well, yes, but we have to decide what to spend it on before the end of this year, and then we have to spend it before the end of 2026.
Yep.
But there's nothing dedicated with the ARPA funds, correct? That can go,
There are certain classifications, we said it was to help whatever the budget issues are in all the departments.
I mean, so can we use that for picnic tables and park benches?
You can, but I would ask the park board first before, you make a unilateral decision, but I would think you want the buy-in from the park board.
Have Steve Wilson here.
Just, yeah. just-
I'm not the park board.
Well, I know you're not the park.
So just remember that the park fund has nothing to do with the general fund.
Let's do it.
As far as items in the park, that is pretty much it. The rest of the items have been pretty much reduced or maintained at a manageable level, which will allow us to maintain the parks in the condition they're in.
Does the park board have anything in mind to spend that 42,000 on? Are they talking about anything?
Playground equipment,
Trees.
Okay.
trees.
Great.
Yeah.
I think.
So we'll have a recommendation. before the end of the year.
Would, I mean, if you're, I mean, we're talking about trees, the other parts of non-park areas, does the park take care of the downtown trees? Or is that the street department?
That's street department. And then the parks takes care of Pierre Marquette Park, Valley Spring Park, Pinkley Park, Main Street Park, Skate Park.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't know about the downtown trees, so I was curious about that.
all right. Anybody have any questions on parks?
Where would the playground equipment go? Do you know?
It's up to the park board.
The thought is to put it up by the big pavilion, so you'd have a new restroom, you'd have a new playground area, you could actually building a little bit, it might be a little more interesting. But I mean, we've also talked about improving the basketball court, doing a multi-purpose field down by Main Street. It's part of the master plan that the park board came up with a few years back.
Very good.
Okay,
All right.
good with parks. Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and move over to the streets, the transportation tax fund there. On the capital improvement item list, you'll see the top three lines there are South 4th Street Bridge, St. Mary's sidewalk, South 4th Street, and the sidewalk. The 122, or 1,220,000, that is for the completion of all those items, including the sidewalk down St. Mary's Road. So, the next one is going to be a vehicle purchase in the amount of roughly $48,000. That will be that one will be a half-ton truck, four-wheel drive, regular cab, and then the $350,000 for Prop S. Any questions on the capital?
Happy, how are these transferring working for Prop S then? This is new to me as far as, I've seen these in a couple of different departments, so.
So it was dedicated, I mean, that's transportation, streets money that's just being dedicated, reallocated, instead of repaving a street. Correct me if I'm wrong, that money would be allocated towards servicing the bond because we'll have the money from the bond to repair those streets. So it's more or less just taking place of that payment. What we would normally pay out to repair.
So when we were asked what we could spend monthly or yearly for the debt service, a $10 million bond, this is what we came up with, it's about $650,000.
So, okay, this is a transfer from the dedicated funds to the general funds,
It actually goes through the debt service.
debt service fund.
Yeah.
So there is, I don't think there's one on streets, but there is, if you look at the end of the general fund budget, you'll see a transfer line.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll eventually put one in the street, and that's what will be for transferred.
Okay. That helps, thank you.
Any other questions on any of those items?
Steve, on the new pickup, did you just get a pickup from the police department or something
Last year, yes.
last year? But you're saying this one would just be a half-ton, four-wheel drive,
Mm-hmm.
two-door,
Yes.
8-foot bed?
Yeah, it wouldn't need to be the 1 ton with snowplow capabilities.
That would be for just general use?
General use, yes.
I want to make sure I'm tracking with you. This might be a silly question, but I'm looking at materials and supplies
Mm-hmm.
proposed for 25. How does Prop S impact the line item for asphalt-related material and concrete-related material? We have numbers in those line items that's saying that while we repair the old streets that we're working on the hit list, that's going to other streets that are not on the Prop S list.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that will also allow us to focus more on like the point-based subdivision, street repairs, the Valley Spring concrete street repairs out there, areas that we can't get to at this point.
Okay, cool, thanks.
So, yeah, there's plenty of places to use it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, thanks.
Again, everything here has been either increased for one reason or another. If anybody has a question about any of these. One specific one is chemicals. It's sitting at 28,000. We just ordered salt again. It's cheaper this time of year than it is in the middle of winter. My goal is to leave about half of that 28,000 at the end of next winter. So, but I just also don't want to jump the gun and not have it there, just so you guys are aware. Asphalt and related materials, that's still gonna suffice the 10,000. We're gonna continue to spend the other portion that's available. Again, concrete and related materials, again, more projects. The vehicle repair and maintenance, that one has substantially went down due to the fact the increased quality of our newer equipment. So, let's see. Again, equipment repair and maintenance, just the current condition of items aren't going to need the repairs that we were seeing in the past.
No safety supplies, is that abnormal or
No.
you have what you need?
Yeah.
Alliance provides that.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Is our portion. Any questions on transportation? We'll move on to water. Water, you're gonna go to page 23, Joe.
Sure. Where's on the backside of the other sheet?
So capital items related to water. During the numerous water line projects up around Riverview, 8th Street, 9th Street, Washington, Rother, Maple, we have found what is an entire block that is a mess, for lack of better terms. The city over the years apparently has put new water lines on nearly all the way around this block, but they never tied them into anything. They were never tied in. The homes were not tied into the new lines. This 25,000 would be for the engineering and plans to get that completed.
That's the one up 9th Street that loops around to the school.
Yep, that's the one. Again, on Happy had mentioned earlier, the water rate analysis. 120,000 in there for water mains. That is in the event that during the street replacements, there's a line that needs to be replaced underneath the street before the new street would go in. Water tank improvements. That's the agreement with Utility Service Group to maintain the water towers. If you guys noticed, the point-based tank and emerald tank was just reconditioned inside and out. They completed roughly $500,000 worth of work. So that is our annual fee. Water well improvements. That's for the annual water well cleaning of 2 wells.
We do like every other year on those or something?
Every 2 years, 2 wells.
Yeah.
Yep. We can do 1 a year if we wanted to, but it's going to cost roughly about 17,000. We save on mobilization and manpower. We do 2 at a time. Yeah.
So that rate analysis, who conducts that?
Outside provider. Based on the metered water sales, everything down the line has been held pretty tight. The only line item that I would have any concern with at this point would be the purchase of the lime for the water treatment. Their rates continue to go up annually at a much higher rate than ours.
Could I ask you to put together a short report on that? If you could look back 3, 4, 5 years and see
Yes.
the price on those?
So if you look on here, actually, real quick, fiscal year 21.
Yeah.
$129,000.
What line are you on?
I am on line
6501, Lyman Freight.
6501, there we go. Okay, yeah,
129,000 in 2021.
about this. You didn't tell
227.
me though how much you bought though. You think you're buying the same amount every year?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
City hasn't grown.
Fair enough. And then 23 went up, yeah, and then now you're at 215 and you're
Yes.
proposing 227 for some cost increase. Okay. So it's almost doubled in,
5 years, 4 years.
no, well, yeah, 4 years.
So,
25% increase each year for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
roughly.
and I can get with Sue and get you numbers further back
That's
if you
pretty,
wish.
that's great.
So.
That was the fastest report I've ever got. Thanks, Steve.
Anytime. So that is the alarming number I want to bring up to everyone's attention there. So
What do you think that is in tonnage?
I have those numbers. I don't have them with me, but their typical increase is 12 to 14% annually.
How many shipments do we get per month or per year?
We pick up a load every Thursday, 52 times a year. Sometimes we pick up extra loads in the summer if demand's high.
And it's still cheaper to locally source that.
So I compared our rates to other divisions within our company, Lincoln County, Ellsbury, Cape Girardeau, and we're about $100 less a ton compared to anybody else, given we have our own truck, all our own. So I imagine that those costs are consumed in delivery.
But you're picking that up yourself with our own trucks and
Yes.
And we talked, do we get a discounted rate? Or is that a commercial rate? Do you think that it's same rate that anybody else pays?
I think it's the same rate.
And our water, we have a discounted water structure. If you use so much, then you get a discount.
They have a commercial rate. It's different than the residential. So,
Well, that's for anybody, commercial.
right.
Okay.
So,
You know what that cutoff is, where it switches from, when it gets to a commercial rate, how much you have to use? Or it's the type of
You
line that
remember that
comes in,
sheet?
or is it the type of line that you have coming in, or is it the amount of volume that you use?
Residential, commercial, and then there is what I call an industrial rate, but it's a special rate that you won't.
How many customers do we have that gets the industrial rate?
One.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
yes, I said commercial is industrial. So. But not much going on in this budget. It's just tight. So, anybody has any questions?
So, well, one quick question, then do that rate analysis. I mean, what do you think they're gonna find in our rate analysis?
My prediction is they're going to find it's low.
Yeah, of course.
So. All right. Any more questions on the water? All right, we'll move on to sewer. All right, collection system study in the amount of 65,000. And then following that, the rate analysis, that goes hand in hand with the water rate study as well. Right here, we have a new pickup and a second new pickup. Both of these would be 1-ton trucks with snowplow prep packages. Typically what we have done is we purchase the vehicles from here, the older vehicles get transferred to another department in need, so. Anyone have questions about those?
We've done some of those collection system studies before, haven't we?
We did a collection system study in 2012 with a firm called Horner and Schifrin. And they were unable to provide us a quality report.
So is that over the entire sewer system?
That was the entire sewer system. We still have the general report, but we don't have a complete report.
Thanks, Steve.
All right.
It's not scattered all over here.
I think that's the one.
All right. Anything else?
Let's see.
All right.
Down to fire, Chief Baker.
Good evening, everyone. We had two capital improvements that were listed in the budget initially. The one that's been recommended is our turnout gear, which is 4 sets. We try to replace 4 sets every year. It's only got a usable life of about 10 years. The other one was a large number. There was 105, I believe it was. And what that was is when I sat down with Happy, I gave him a bunch of quotes for different concrete repairs and asphalt repairs and things around the firehouse, along with some garage door repairs. Our garage door openers, they're now 20 years old, or coming up on 20. I've got 2 of them that don't work right now. I think I can get those repaired or replaced out of this year's budget, but that was a combination of all the capital improvement things. And as far as my regular line item budget, basically I'm coming back with the same budget I asked for last year with a few minor exceptions. Asked for a couple $100 more on memberships. Being members of a couple other organizations, it gives me opportunities to apply for more grants through some of those organizations. And the other ones are basically cost of living increases type things. The annual certifications to have people come out and do our testing costs a little bit more every year. So we added a little bit there. And obviously the fuel, because we're running more calls, we had to add a little bit there. And the only other increase that we put in was for vehicle insurance. And like everybody has insurance, our vehicle insurance goes up a little bit every year too. So I'd be open to any questions.
Don't forget about the fire.
Your salaries went down. Your salaries went down quite a bit, Chief.
Happy mentioned that he had taken out the part-time fire chief thing.
So how are you gonna get all that stuff done, the grant?
I'll just continue as I am right now, as I have time, fire chief position. To be honest with the board, because I'm retired now, I have some extra time. And if I'm not doing the part-time chief, I'm probably gonna look for some part-time employment somewhere to supplement my pension. So just being honest with the board on that.
Happy with, in a meeting last night, we received this nice information kit on this fire district. And there's a lot of information in there, a lot of research and stuff. I'm just kind of curious, pulling that salary out, because it is something we did budget. I know there's some differences of who should, or how we should award the job, and I understand that, but you know, I feel like we made a commitment to something, this board made a commitment to something, and now we're backing out of it. And with the timing of this coming up, this is a big deal. This is a big deal that could affect the city several ways. I mean, I just don't agree with taking that salary out of there now and stuff. Maybe it's something we can negotiate a little bit, but you know, we're asking volunteers. We're down from 29 people to 22. If we don't start taking care of this department, because we are required by law to provide fire protection, just wondering what we're heading into and stuff. But I totally disagree with taking that salary out. Maybe it's something we can negotiate a little bit. I think the number was 38,000. 32, or 32, whatever it was and stuff, but doing away with that, I don't think that's in any of our best interest. I mean, you know, we ask volunteers to show up on their own time, attend tons of training. You know, the fact that we can't put somebody in a position there to maybe increase our response time and stuff, because I had asked you on the last several fires that we had, structure fires and stuff, we had 5 firemen show up.
We actually had a structure fire last night, and we got lucky because it was 2 o'clock in the morning. We had about 10.
I don't know, I think this board needs to think hard about this. I think it's something that we need, and I think it's something we committed to, and I think it's something we need to follow through, but
Kenny, looking at, your guys' schedule and what you have for training and grant writing, how much, do you know roughly how much you've gotten in the last few years in just grants alone?
Since I've taken over in 2015, and I can't take credit for all of it because some of it was help. We've bought over $750,000 in equipment with grant money, with varying shares. But we've bought over $750,000 worth of equipment.
So potentially we could be losing some of those opportunities.
I would hope not. I'll continue to try to do what I can with my spare time. And I have been really fortunate with some of my grant writing. On behalf of the firefighters, they do appreciate what you guys did for them this year in budget too, with the clothing allowance and the additional funding. That's made a good boost in morale for some of the guys out there. So we do thank you for what you've done for them.
So if I could ask, how does the salary for the part-time police chief affect their proposal to go to a fire protection district?
Fire chief?
Yeah. Fire
Oh, you
chief,
said
fire chief.
police.
Sorry, fire chief.
You meant,
That's twice. You need to determine. So that's twice you call him a part-time police chief.
you're right, it's,
I'm guilty of the first one, though. I'm sorry.
Well, Eric, I don't think anybody answered your question, right? So I'll try, probably won't do a great job of it, but I think it's just the opportunity to have somebody dedicated there that is compensated to sit there and work through that plan. It's going to be a long and tedious road to get to there.
I think to answer those questions that we're gonna need answered to
Exactly.
find out, I think there's gonna be a lot of time involved.
It's a lot of
getting some
legwork.
answers if it's something that we wanna do.
Yeah.
I think there will be probably some effort put into
You know, I think
figuring out the
attended
answers to those
one
questions.
meeting back some time ago, because I was always curious about this whole ISO rating. It was pretty informative. It is hugely complicated, and it affects all of us, that live in the city coverage area. It affects our homeowners insurance or property insurance. I think a lot of that has been accomplished by the department of keeping us, as low as we are. We're on ISO 4 rating now and stuff. So the county, with their moves in this, is going to go to a 6 because we have several other fire departments that don't meet it and stuff. But the timing to take this out of the picture is wrong with what's going on. Now that will change if this district goes through somewhat, but that's my opinion.
Well, and I'd add to Bob's comments, I think it's short-sighted to think that there won't be an impact to grant writing. And the Chiefs had an outstanding record. I mean, continually brings us grants to consider, and we participate in that. We're buying hardware for the department. At what point do you eat up $32,000 worth of that? We'd have to go back and look at actuals, but the value's there.
But just for everybody's sake, this isn't a position that has been funded yet, correct? This was going to be
It's a
funded.
placeholder, right?
Correct. So
Right.
we're not taking away that salary, we're changing the status of that position as it's been the last.
It was in the budget.
No, that's true.
It was in the budget for last year, and I couldn't do it because I was on disability, and I wasn't allowed to do it and had my disability payments.
And again, important to say, it's a position. It's not a personal,
Right.
it's not awarding somebody a job. It's a
Right.
position for somebody to do that work. So.
I just don't think it would have a good impact on our other 22 members and prospective members if we don't provide proper leadership and just timing is just terrible. You know, we've taken other steps to sanitize, you know, other departments, take home police cars. We did the raise thing that we paid for the salary study. We brought that up. This is just another part of the puzzle that needs to be addressed.
But I think we at least need to consider, as we go through this budget, to potentially put that back in. At least part. I would say yes.
Any other questions on my budget? Thank you for your time.
You know, Little Fire, we have sitting down with the grants. With the grants getting.
Yep, that's a last Arbor grant, that it was $120,000, we've ordered the turnout gear, we've ordered actually the hose roller came in now. Right now, I'm in the process of coming up with the prices for the hose. I hope to have that, if I can get enough time involved in it, I hope to have that for you guys next board meeting and for sorry.
All right, our next tourism.
Hello, everyone. You guys all sat through a lengthy budget pitch and kind of long-term plan over the past couple of meetings. The budget that I have here, I'm still working on the one from July 29th. We have an updated
Request there.
Oh, nice. Okay, perfect. Oh, good. Okay, so, which is interesting. You remember what the software is for? Is this for the Place Area AI?
Price replacement. It's environment. Community development. That's all I have to software to talk about. It wasn't.
That was one that was going to be cost share between a couple different departments? Yeah, Place Area AI would be one that'd be, if David Boba thought there was a good use for it, which we had talked about it, I'm not sure what he pitched. But it's 5,000 total, but we were hoping to split it between the two departments. And I think I've talked a lot about Place Area AI. I think that's a really good tool for us to start looking at, like, what are the real world sort of impacts of our tourism marketing dollars. So I think that'd be a good one. I'm not sure, you know, I have $2,500 on my line item. 8012. Yeah, 8012 on my sheet, it says 2,500. On this one, it says 2,000. So I think that one's on the chopping block. But I would implore you guys to keep that one, just because I do think it's going to help give us some metrics of, like, is this working? And I think what's sorely needed in tourism, and probably has been for a while, is metrics. You know, we need a way to measure what's happening. I think with Visit Widget, we will get, like, closer to following the visitor on their journey from, you know, the ad to the website to what they choose to do. But being able to see, I mean, Place Area AI will give us a good idea of real boots on the ground. So I think that'd be worth it. Landscaping, I think we've decided that can be cut back. Is that the Welcome Center? Yeah. Just on a quick side note, where are we at with that transfer of the Welcome Center, Happy?
Same place you go. I don't know anything more than what anybody else does at this point. They're still working on it.
Their lawyers are working on the agreement, or
So they're looking at, they've done a phase 1 environmental. They're now doing a phase 2 environmental on the site.
Okay, yeah, I would think so. Yeah, what was the technical terms that they came up with after the phase one of this.
Well, because of previous uses,
Ah, right.
concerned with what's.
Yeah, there was an update, I think, in your report at last meeting, right, about that? Yeah, I don't remember if it was last meeting or the meeting before.
Now, I'm a little confused by this one too, in the program grants. We're looking to cut that, or is that just what I'm asking for? Okay. Gotcha, okay.
But I thought the marketing plan needed to be.
Okay. So your salaries have went down tremendously. Right. So that's, thank you for trying to make do there. And that's also kind of offset some of your insurance and other overhead for staff. Yep. Looks like there's just a 2,000 year-over-year increase, $2,000 year-over-year increase. And, in my little budget ask, it was a lot more. So, and this was based on some more conservative estimates, and we were able to move a lot of that salary over to cover those conservative estimates. So given the state of the general fund, I think I can make do with that. I guess one thing I am concerned about under digital services, Happy, will that also be what covers visit with you, those 2,000? Okay, so we won't have a lot for website maintenance and things like that.
Yeah, we have some budget with tribute tax.
Gotcha. That's what I thought too. But still a little murky about where that comes in the line items. Your overall budget has actually decreased since last year. Not by a large amount, but you're actually one of the only departments that's actually decreased. Oh. Huh. What does it say on yours? About 326,000 last year, and you're 323 this year. So your savings of about $3,000 over last year's costs. Okay. Imagine a lot of that is in that salary position. That's got that small little bit of marketing increase. What does it say for your marketing increase on? Because I've got a different worksheet. On the proposed large capital page, it shows 60,000. But in the budget, I thought it was 40.
Does that come out of the tourism tax?
That might be.
Tribute tax is separate.
Thank you.
Well, maybe not.
So, which line are you looking at, Joe?
What line were you asking about again?
I was.
The capital
Welcome
expense.
center expense.
The 60,000.
Yes.
The marketing plan or the,
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
so that's part of the grant amount, 30,000 from the state, 30,000 from the marketing fund. That's in addition to the marketing and the marketing line item, which we don't count. And then there's another 30,000 that comes out of tourism tax.
Oh, I'm sorry. So say that again, Happy.
Now, the total amount for our marketing plan is $90,000. We have 60,000 in tourism grants. So we have 30,000 in tourism grants, is that right? Oh. Sorry, they didn't rethink it. 40,000 with grants.
Yeah, with the MPD and the MMG. Yeah. Okay, gotcha, yeah.
So the 80,000 program grants is 40,000 that's state, 40,000 that's ours. A portion of it comes from, in this case, this Parks Remington General Fund. It also has another 60,000 that we're spending on marketing through our marketing plan. So there's 30,000 that will come out of the marketing line item, and 30,000 that comes out of the tourism tax marketing line. Then you've got the marketing, the Missouri matching grant, and you have the Missouri program grant. There's two different grants. One is for the actual marketing that we do outside of the 50-mile limit in newspaper, Facebook, and things that were recommended by McDaniels. We're also going for rebranding, which is recommended by McDaniels in the marketing plan. So there's 10,000 from the state, 10,000 from us that will go towards paying for that. And we will have a recommendation coming your way probably in September on what group to go with the marketing, with the rebranding.
Yeah. Okay, now I've got the right sheet that everybody else has. And what I was talking about, so the landscaping came out, the software came out, but I would really love for that software to be back in there. Just, and that would be 2,500 on 8012. But then again, it's up to the Bove man behind me. So happy on the full budget. It shows those two line items for under the marketing plan. It shows those line items 1018 60 15 and 1018 71 63. Shows on here for the but in the actual budget it's quite a bit less. It shows 33,000, not the 60,000 that's on the proposed.
You say 33,000, which one are you?
Well, there's under.
Yeah. Which one is it?
60 50 and 71 63.
6015 is separate from 7169.
Yeah. 71. 71.
7163.
Okay. Yes, correct. There's two added together, but if you look in the full budget, it's, oh, well. Yeah, it's fine.
Proposed 43.
I'm not getting the math here, I'm sorry. For visit widgets? Oh, that doesn't leave me a lot of room to do much. Because in that whole 30,000 of that 43 is spoken for. So I basically have $13,000 for the entire year to do any sort of marketing. And yeah, it's not a lot. Anything separate from what, yeah, I say that. I mean, we can work within what McDaniels is doing. Yeah, it's not really separate from
what I'm working on, but yeah, and if 8,400 of that is going to visit widget, then leaves me with 4,600 left for the year.
That's pretty shocking, I guess, to give you, I mean, you've got some proposed projects in there that I know it's not fair to say, but if that leaves you with less than $5,000 in any additional marketing or advertising.
Cue some thunder for the doom and gloom.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to hold this up, but I'm gonna have to study that one a little bit more.
If you notice, the bottom line for tourism is more than most of the other departments. That's why you're gonna see less available in there.
Let's say that again, Andy.
So if you look at the bottom line of tourism on the big spreadsheet, you'll notice that tourism has a larger budget than most of the other departments.
On the
total, I mean, the total budget for that department. That's why you see some stuff that's not as, you may not agree with, but that's because the total budget for that department is really high.
I'm not following you, Happy, I'm sorry.
So for legislative, the total for the budget for the year is 168,000. For administration, it's 329,000. For the community development department, it's 174,000. For the fire, it's 161,000. For tourism, it's 323,000. It's a pretty large chunk of our administrative. The general fund.
Well, but it's also one of the only departments that actually generates revenue back to the city in sales tax dollars. And so, I mean, to be fair, it's also got how many, you have 2 people down at the Welcome Center plus yourself and Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got 4 staff members, and he's still paying for his share of all the administrative fees with, printing and copying and phone services and all that stuff too. So, I mean, and then he's trying to market. So he has outgoing services that are not just, we look at the legislative fund, there's not really capital outlying projects that he's doing with like what he's doing with marketing, putting on a whole advertising campaign. So because it's larger,
But I think we're obligated to provide fire service and police service. And with that comes court service. I don't think we have an obligation to provide tourism service.
correct, we do not.
I mean, and not to downplay the department, but in a budget crunch, I mean, we're obligated to provide certain services. And if we're talking about cutting a part-time police chief or not programming all the radios to let the officers get out of their car and answer a call, then
I think that got put back in, I think.
I thought the last I heard was 5, doing 5 instead of.
That's what we talked about last. Yeah, we talked about 0 initially, and then we were talking about 5 right now.
Which neither I don't think is reasonable,
Right.
but we can discuss that when it's time to discuss that. And again, I'm not saying we shouldn't fund it or it's unreasonable, just food for thought.
Yeah, and I would say, in my biggest defense is that he's the only department that can generate revenue besides writing tickets. It's the only department that actually generates revenue for the city.
But it's also hard to quantify how much of that is directly related to the money we put into it. We spend $328,000 on this, so we want to get $328,000 back out of it. We don't know.
Well, there are studies for that. The state reports back that every dollar spent returns $9 in return for what you get back in
Then our budget would be substantially bigger than it is.
Say that again?
Then our tax increase our tax income would be substantially higher than it is.
Or just the opposite, if we didn't spend this money, this 300 and some thousand in tourism, what would our revenue be, that we would, take in?
Well, and also I think the department's, been kind of dysfunctional for a little bit as well. So
That's,
you got to factor that in. So.
Wasn't happy the previous tourism.
That guy.
That's sorry.
yeah.
Not by choice. Wasn't his top choice. So.
Had to lighten the mood in here a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just caution the board that we have a somewhat functional tourism department now.
Yeah, I wasn't saying I'm a cut above or anything, but
I hate to have Aaron sitting there twiddling his thumbs.
Right.
We're starting to fire on all cylinders, and I don't want to lose momentum now when we have some momentum going. So.
and I see it. I think we do have a lot of good momentum going. But yeah, I mean, we will be able to do some things within McDaniel's marketing plan, but I would just like to supplement what they're doing just in case.
So the 60,000, that's to McDaniel's, and they're allocating those dollars, or is that just a?
They are putting the ads together and then advertising, replacing.
They are.
They are doing that. They're actively advertising as part of
A
that.
portion of that is their fee, but it's
Sure.
15% based on what the state.
Okay.
Yeah, so 68,000 of that is.
But I mean, it's under Aaron's direction. They're just not.
Right, they're just not doing it unilaterally where we have oversight there. You're actually pushing the buttons, right?
For the most part. I mean, I have some, I hate to say it, I do have some concerns with McDaniel's. I think they do have like a set sort of way of working things. Yeah, they've got a method, and, I've done some pushing back, but there's some pushback there as well. So, it's nice for me to be able to exercise outside, not outside of that, but like I said, I'm pushing back, but it does cause a little bit more time and deliberation. I find myself a lot of times like in the middle of, okay, how do I answer this? How do I do that sort of thing? So
They do work for us.
and no doubt. Yeah.
They know that, right?
They know that. Yeah.
But they want to get the contract again. I know that. So
Yeah, no doubt.
we're a big feather in the cap. I think they're pretty excited to work for us. So.
So do we know where Visit Widget is in the Placer AI? Did we find the line item on that? I know. Or is it just not in at the moment?
I think we put it under marketing, but if we didn't, then it's not in there.
Okay. So digital services is not it. That's something else.
Digital services is a number of other things. We
Okay.
have a lot of website, renewals that we have to do.
Adobe Suites, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Creative Cloud, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's 8,400 pretty much on the nose
For Visit Widget.
for Visit Widget, yeah, for the year.
Visit widgets and digital services.
Yeah, it is, yeah, just out. Well, I'll also draw your attention to the bottom of the page where it talks about tourism tax, there's marketing there, so that needs to be occupancy tax. And on the proposed large capital. So there's 30,000 for the marketing, that marketing plan. The rest of it is for grants, black cards, and those are the main items that the tourism tax commission had approved.
Love those rack cards. All right.
Good evening. Not too much to talk about here. If you look at the capital item project requests, we had talked a few years about getting a truck whenever we were looking at a potential new subdivision. That's been eliminated, and I think we could probably work something out where we receive one of the vehicles from PD if those remain in the budget, and just eliminate that 45,000. Zoning code update. We've had on the agenda for a couple years, but it can be put off if needed. So there's not anything requested there besides those two. Most of the line items have been reduced, not most, but some of them have been reduced. Some of them are remain the same. Overall, on my department, on community development, of that 174 bottom number, 36,000 of that is a grant expense that's offset, like many of the other grants, in a revenue line in general administration or general revenue.
Your salaries went down slightly too as well, Dave.
Yes.
But that's only 10 months running, right?
I think he's talking about the proposed.
No, proposed
Pardon me?
versus.
The proposed,
No.
I think, versus
I
the
think it's
budgeted.
2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah. You did a code update last year though, right?
No, it was in the budget last year.
Oh.
We did not get to it. The comprehensive plan took a little longer than we had anticipated.
Okay. Are we transferring that? You're not gonna be using those funds?
Those,
Figured into your unaudited balance.
so the two requests you see there aren't included in the budget at your table.
Well, I was looking, but we budgeted for 45,000 for last year for zoning updates, and it's not gonna get done, so I'm just wondering what we're doing with those funds this year yet. I don't know if we transferred them to something else
They'll
yet.
just carry over to next year. Any other questions? I do want to point out, you have a bound copy of the comprehensive plan at your seat. If you want that, it is yours. If not, I will gladly take it back. It'll save us from printing any additional bound copies. And then I had sent you an email about a comp plan committee. I got one response. If anyone else is interested, please let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, so now we're up to legislative administration and that. So I'm looking at the proposed large capital items. We had thought about hiring an engineer to do some drawings and some renderings, look at what we could do to the outside of City Hall. However, we pulled that out due to when we look at the budget constraints. Prop S transfer, 100,000. That is what we had figured we have available. So we still have that in there to transfer to the debt service for Prop S. Conferences and travel, we had put in 3,000, recommending 2,000 if you want to go to some sort of training from MML or a conference. SGTV, we have been giving them, we've been allocating 39,000 for them. However, there is a new state statute for media that is reducing the amount of income that we get from that. So it is going down. We're looking at probably 39,000 that we will have as revenue this year instead of 42, and then that will continue to decrease. So based on the agreement with the SGTV board, we can allocate no less than 75% of the revenue that we pull in from that tax. So that puts them at 29,250. The rest of it pays for the electric and maintenance of the building. Parkland Ready, we still have that to help with economic development. That's 2,500. And then the Chamber of Commerce, we were talking earlier, there's that $6,000 payment. We pay 500 monthly.
I don't know what that is.
Yep.
I don't quite understand what that is.
I figured there was some reason that the city was helping with the chamber and whatever whatever
I
their.
think we use them as our economic development arm because they field a lot of calls and try to promote some economic development for the city and the area as a whole. So I think that was on top of our dues. I think we were not in a contract, but using them as almost our,
Right. Okay.
you know, so do we get value out of that additional 6,000 that we pay per year to the chamber? I guess that's up for the board to decide, but I know that they field a lot of phone calls for us and try to promote the idea, which they have to do for all members, but do we get that preferential treatment for those funds? I don't know. Do they need it? Would they change the way they represent us and present us as a whole? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall what that was. Has that been?
That's been since I got here.
At one time, we funded, we had a salary position and we helped fund that person. I forget what his name was. And the county funded him, the chamber funded him, and we funded him. And he was an economic development director, or I don't know what his title was, but and I think he got sick or something and position went away and we moved it. Well, we paid less. That was not what we were paying a lot more than that to them, to that salary position. And this was a way to try to keep.
I don't know if we need to quibble over it, but I just don't know what that would be.
We could make an inquiry about that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just racking my brain because I mean I was on the chamber board for 3 years. I just don't recall ever talking about that at any point. I'm just confused by it.
Okay. All right, so that's legislative. Administration, we were looking at a new City Hall AC. Our current AC is on the roof. We're going to move it down and get a new one and put it on the ground. The other one works fine. It would be nice to update, but pull that out of the budget. Municipal code review, which is separate from the zoning, because that's the rest of the code. We're looking at updating that. That's about a 2-month process. We pulled that out. We were looking at a laptop share between myself and Sue for city treasurer work. We pulled that out. ARPA, which is a website, and stormwater is what was initially listed. There's $35,108 left. Actually, it's gonna be a little less than that. But that will carry over because of the website. We're not gonna get it done or get it even started probably till September. And the 5,108, which is actually the stormwater. At this point, we don't have anything else to do with stormwater, so we may want to reallocate that. Any questions about those?
Well, I mean, so can we reallocate that 5,000 for radio upgrades or other funds?
Yep, sure can. Yeah, because we're going to be pretty close on the 30,000 for the website, so I don't want to, we may even have some left there, but that, until we finish paying that off, I don't want to take anything away from that. So that's 30,000, but
Is that going to be for 24 or next year for 25?
it's in the next budget year is 30,000 for that. So there's a combination of there's 30,000 for the website and 5,108 that's left over from stormwater.
When you say nothing left to do with stormwater, that means like the study or the engineering of it, or is
I mean,
it?
we don't have anywhere to go at this point.
Right.
So I don't have anything else, and it's not big enough to do a project.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of 5,000 left.
And that can be reallocated towards the?
It's general funds, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we just have to list it, and when I do my yearly report, I just have to account for it. Okay, anything else? Moving down the page to band tax, the band fund, it's 55,000, that's what we pay just every year, that's what we allocate for them. Revenues are a little bit more than that, I think they're 57,000. On the next page, on the backside, cemetery tax. So we have some work that we need to do out there and at the Memorial Cemetery. This is Crestlawn Memorial that we maintain. So we need to do, we have the grass cutting. That's a yearly expense for the two cemeteries. And we probably need to do some limb cutting. So there's about 4,000 in that 20,000 that's for the limb cutting. So that, I should say about 3,200 for limb cutting. And then design expansion of plots. So in Crestlawn, we are getting to the end of that section that was done, I don't know how many years ago, but we're close to getting to the end on the east side. So we're looking at pushing it further to the south because we have property that way. But it needs to be designed before we start expanding. Have to have it engineered so that we know how much fill material we're going to need. And there's also stormwater adjacent to that. We're pretty close, and that could cause some issues.
Is that that little area where we put in the little Sharp Street?
Yeah, yes, yeah. And then we just want to keep going further back to the south, back towards Progress Parkway. Let's see, moving down the page, if you see debt service, we have certificates of participation that still have 161,588 left for payments. The Prop S bond, now that it passed, not Proposition 6, $655,000. And then for capital projects, we still have some money left over for cybersecurity, which may also can be reallocated to the police department for the radios. 'Cause we're about done with all of our updates in that.
Is that, how much does cemetery tax, I mean, it's a dedicated fund, so it's not,
40,000 a year.
roughly 40,000? Okay.
Well, that's what the budgeted for next year is.
Yeah.
Anticipated revenue? Okay.
Yep. We do have if you look on the big spreadsheet, we do have a reserve left in that, about 230,000.
After your proposed, yeah.
Yeah. With those, it'll eat into that sum, but you're also looking at what's budgeted for the year. We're pretty good. So the improvement will probably dig into that pretty heftily. We had it looked at as a larger piece going all the way to the property line towards Progress Parkway, and the estimate was about $235,000 to do the fill. Because part of it is you have to get dirt. You can't put other fill materials in there. It has to be dirt. So finding the dirt, having it trucked in, it's just a lot of labor. And then compacting it because you're eventually going to be digging into it.
I don't know what the proposed, Proposition S, the improvement out there on Progress Parkway, I don't know if that's gonna be a balanced site or not, but there might be quite a bit of fill material that might come out of there. So might be something that I mean, it's a short haul from there to there, so that might be something that we could really work in with any developer to bring some of that over.
So the way this may work is we'll be designing it and then at the same time dropping dirt off to fill it, start filling it, and then go back with figuring out how to compact it, level it, and get it set.
Maybe we could get like a corporate sponsor for our cemetery and we could,
Sell it.
yeah.
Big right. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. And at the bottom of the page, you'll notice where we also have seen our increases. These are some of our bigger budgeted items that I thought we've kept in there and let you know what the changes are in those expenditures. Any questions?
How long, what's our length of contract with our IT management?
I think we have 3 years left.
So how do we, or don't they have a minimum that they can raise on that thing? We're talking about,
Forward slash.
forward slash.
Yeah.
We have a 12% increase for them.
This is what you're not looking at a 12% increase for them. It's a 2 or 3% increase. It's the increase in what we have added for our cybersecurity.
Machines and the computers and
The
things.
equipment, again, the software and the renewals. So that's what you're seeing now, because we do the testing that nobody takes the test for. We do the,
I take my test.
Had to bring that up.
we have the renewals for, because we do with our Bit Defender, Barracuda is our backup. So we have these, the renewal amounts that are also included in that. Oh, Microsoft Office. And everybody's got an email. And then in the office, it's actual, full Microsoft Office.
This is the amount, this isn't the total services. This is the increase that like on IT, it's an $86,000 increase, or that's the total?
That's a total. It's paid for by
Last
three
year was
departments.
70
Because it's paid for by 3 departments. It's general fund, water and sewer.
Okay.
So my plan is to, if you want to make some decisions tonight, if you want to make some hard and fast, or if you don't want to, next meeting, we'll have a budget allocated in the work session. So that's next Thursday. You can take a week to think about this. We don't want things to be forgotten between now and then. We can also start incorporating some of this if you want us to do that, and then bring that back next Thursday.
I don't know if I missed it on the Zoom. Was there a employee raise figured into this?
So it's no COLA, right?
Right. So we have a step increase, but no COLA.
It is for this year.
We were looking at, I think, overall 3%. So with the step raise, that is about 1%. We were going to do a 2% COLA. That's about $33,000 total that would add to the budget. So we pulled it out, again, trying to keep it down.
And then Officer Steiger mentioned tourism's budgets. No, I'm sorry, it was it tourism's budget that you said decreased?
Looks like it.
Yeah, year to year.
I think Dave's budget went down too.
Looks like Dave's budget went down, and actually the police department's went down $50-something thousand with the increase for dispatch. I mean, that's a considerable cut.
Some of that might be grant.
Yeah.
If the grant was 90,000 last year, 40,000 this year. I don't know on Jason's things, but that's part of some of that.
Like I said, I mean, he got the dispatch hike, and it looks like he's still $50,000 under where he was last year.
Yeah, because we had, I don't remember what the grants were last year. or anticipated grants, which we also have some anticipated grants this year as well.
So we're still, I don't know if we found was it roughly 290,000 to get to that 50%?
255 is what we have to, we did not get to that number, no.
So what's the general fund balance surplus in red? That's the 294. What's
294 is the deficit. So that's how much you're eating into, what would be your total leftover. So your department total,
if we left the budget as is, including where you're at with the recommended, we're 294 short.
right. Well, the 294 is a deficit that comes out. So 1,031,000 is what the total is. And 40% of, that is 40% of 2,628 over on the left. So of the revenue that we have, that amount is 40% of the 2,628,000. Because we have to have at least 50% that we allocate for that.
As we sit today.
Yeah,
That's state statute or that's our policy?
that's our policy.
Fiscally smart.
So that means you'll have 6 months of, that you can, let me take that back. It's 40% of the 2,550, not the 2,628, but the 2,550 under the operational right above the green. That's the total to run the city. So if we don't have any income, something happens, a disaster, obviously, we don't have any income, then we can support the city and its operations for 6 months.
And Happy, there is no state statute regarding that, is there, that we have to have X number of dollars that have been reserved to fund the city? That's what's odd.
Nope.
It governs so many things, but they don't.
Yeah.
So I know we're speaking to the bigger issue right now, the difference in 40%, 50%. Are we ready? Would you entertain an option to pull some funds from some of these line items on the capital page and fund certain items? Like, if we're ready for it, I'd like to propose that we pull money out of that ARPA website storm line item and then the cybersecurity to fully fund the radios for PE.
Cybersecurity.
It's on the backside of it, all the way to the bottom.
Backside under capital projects.
And that, I mean, that's more money than you need for that, right? Isn't it?
That's 11,000? No,
$1,000.
Not that I want to sidestep the bigger issue of taking 40% to 50% or writing a bill to put an ordinance in place, but.
Yeah, I think that's probably doable.
So you had that, you also have the part-time fire chief.
Well, that's not even, that would be in addition to if we funded that back in.
Correct.
Correct, yeah.
Those are the notes that I've made.
Excel didn't do $32,000 worth of rounding in that 40% cell, did it?
Yeah, so if you add that and add that amount in, it probably goes down to about 37, 38%.
Yeah.
How much do we anticipate being affected by the sales tax snafu that's been discussed with the county and
We were not part of that state statute. It didn't list cities, it did list counties, so it doesn't affect us at all. Yeah, we are not affected by that. We are just, this is the point that we are with our reserves, having eaten into those with some of the projects, and again, the new yearly costs that we're incurring everywhere.
So if, I mean, our option is do nothing, go with the proposed, make more cuts, try to cut that. It's the two options, I guess, but.
You can move money from capital projects back in and just cover that.
I mean, at what point do we anticipate getting rooftops and getting some tax revenue from the new subdivision? I mean, if we mandated this, if we pulled the money from capital improvements, I mean, we certainly don't want this to be a downward spiral and continue to do this year over year.
At least two. I would say
Yeah, I
it was
would-
2 years.
You're 2 years away.
At least.
I mean, you'll have some sales tax, generation from construction and so we're doing 5 or 10 streets. You're gonna have some crews in here and, some home construction, but, so you'd have probably some sales, but property taxes, you're not gonna see anything for a while.
I just, again, just looking at this from a, we see projection that it's going to continue to decrease year over year. If we have some outlook that maybe it will might be inclined to pull some of that capital.
You talking about the 32,000? If you knew there was a get well date
Right.
on the horizon.
32,000.
Part-time fire chief.
No, he's talking about if we want to pull 255,000.
Okay. I wasn't
Not changing an ordinance.
Okay.
Or you can change the ordinance and we can work within that measure of reserves, but if you want, that means we're digging into reserves.
Right.
Yep.
What's your recommendation? I mean, how did you present it?
Yeah, the recommendation is, I would recommend amending the minimum that we have to keep for the reserve. I think it's not the simplest. I mean, we can transfer money pretty easily, but I also agree that I don't want it sitting there and then we start using it because it's sitting there.
Right.
But I mean, so when I started, we had 650,000 in our reserve extra that we've now moved over, and that's what's kind of.
Would it set a bad precedent to change that ordinance to allow the 40% and then change it back to 50% when we're in better standing? I mean, that seems wishy-washy, but.
Yeah, but that's the option, yeah.
We didn't actually have an ordinance in place when we set it at 50, did we?
No, that was a recommendation from the board, was 50.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I will say this, and I don't have a list of cities, but it runs anywhere from 25 to 50%. Some cities don't want that much reserve in there. They're not.
Higher percentage there, but at the same time, much like many budgets before this, like there's not a whole lot of fat in here to cut, I mean, without losing services.
Yeah.
And I mean, at least we're in a position where we have some reserves, but I'm certainly not proposing depleting those, but if we have, we do have light at the end of the tunnel, I think, with this tax passing and with the possibility of adding all of the rooftops and like you said, the sales tax that will generate from that. I don't think it's going to gloom, but.
Well, and if you look at if at some point the sales tax for dispatch, they don't need us to build the reserves, there's almost 200,000 at that point that is back in our budget.
The board could also take the stance that they don't want to pay that into that. Because I mean, we did not agree to pay beyond.
And this has always been a bone of contention. We don't really have any negotiating rights in our dispatch situation. St. Genevieve County does all the negotiation. I don't think that, I mean, I think we'd be cutting off our nose to spite our face to look elsewhere and detach from.
Well, I'm not even saying, but what they're asking for is a payment into the initial infrastructure.
Right. But the way the system has been in its entirety is we are at the whim of of the
Yes.
county, and we've never had, when they moved to St. Francis County, we didn't have any voice on that.
We just had to grin and bear it. Yeah.
No voice on that board. We just have to pay what they tell us to pay. I don't know at what point in time, and this is not a decision for me, I mean, it's certainly a decision for those that are more affected by it, but, we don't have any dog in that fight, even though it affects us every day.
Well, won't we have, upcoming board members that we can vote for and have a say on that board going forward?
Going forward.
Yeah.
Because we've got one voice on there now, right?
We do have representation on the board.
And we got Paul.
Yeah, on the text.
But we didn't have to join, go to St. Francis. We could have went out on our own and did our own thing, I guess, right?
We could have.
Probably would have been dumb, but
It would have been dumb.
yeah.
And I mean, at some point in time, I would think we need to weigh the options of looking at our own dispatch versus what we're paying for that. If it's going to continue to go up, and I know that it may not, like we'll have once this infrastructure is done, will it come back down? I mean, we hope.
I mean, that's supposed to be eliminated.
Yes.
It's supposed to all be paid for by
120
the
or
sales
whatever.
tax.
But it still went up a decent percentage every year.
Well, that was part of our, well, I think they only asked, what, was it 120 last year?
Yep.
So they only asked for that last year. They haven't made an ask.
$60,000.
Well, they wanted 120,000 commitment for,
No, they want 180, whatever it is, 86,000 is the commitment because it's per month.
that's the new ask.
That's the ask. Yeah, that's the contract we signed.
Just for 1 year. They really wanted us to do 3 or 5 years
Well, they wanted us to continue making that, yeah.
additional payment.
And just but at that time, we were voting to do it for 3 to 5 years or whatever they were asking. They wanted a long-term commitment, and we said, no, we take it year by year.
Yeah.
From my understanding, they're generating more than they had anticipated, and they don't think it's gonna be anywhere near the 5 years that they had thought. But I don't know if the city needs to get more involved in their board meetings to find out exactly where they're at financially, how quick we can get off of that, or at least reduce our amount if they're willing to do that.
Well, I think if I recall, I mean, I don't know where it comes in. I mean, I know we obviously have to pay some into it, but their ask last year was to continue paying what we had more or less obligated to pay previously to help fund the initial infrastructure costs. But that they said that would sunset at some point, but they couldn't tell us when because they didn't know what tax revenues would be like.
Which I think they had anticipated 5 years, but I don't think it'll be right.
But there's nothing saying that we have to pay for the infrastructure costs, I guess is my point.
Not after this year.
Right. Well, did we vote on
Well, we voted
That came in-
for this year. Current year.
I mean, I think that request came in after our budget, right, last year? Came in October, November, probably, or it would have been after November election.
I think it was, we were over at the Plaza, so I think it was January.
January, because it would have been after the November election when it passed. But we're generating a lot of the sales tax for that proposition that was passed. Yes, and I think Alderman Donovan brought it up at the time. It felt double taxed in a way.
And it probably wouldn't be as questioned as much if it wasn't for the $70,000 increase.
Correct.
Right.
It would be nice to get an update from them. Maybe we could.
We asked one of them to come in.
Major Shots our contact. I'll let him know.
You want a pound of flesh from them, or?
I won't bring an iron.
Well, and he would be coming before the board anyway if he wants to bring the next contract request.
Right.
Yeah. So you get your chance at
Just kidding.
The board itself, the situation itself and how it was presented initially, like, I just feel like we've always been handed that without any real recourse or negotiation ability.
Yeah.
And, I mean, while we're talking numbers, I would think that I would be in favor of approving the COLA for the employees. On top of the 1%, I mean, their costs are still going up at the grocery store and the gas pump, just like everybody else's, so, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's not all that much more than we're already in the hole. Maybe that's the wrong way to look at it, but.
Can we use any of these ARPA funds, like the restroom ones, to do any of these projects or shortfalls? Is there, I don't know what the limits are. I'm not that familiar with these ARPA funds and what we can and can't do with those.
So it wouldn't work for salaries. That's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be for extra funds, for extra payments to employees as they stayed through the COVID mess that we had. And again, yeah, we can reallocate. I can look again at our list of what was the recommended items. Most of them were for infrastructure, water, sewer. We used it for streets. There's a few other things I can look at and see if they would apply. But you're looking at something that's on our current, what we're currently using it. We can't use it for advertising, so it wouldn't be for, we wouldn't be able to use it for tourism. But if you're looking to see if I can apply it to something else that's in here, and, Park Board may have, some disagreement with that, but it's up to the board to make that allocation.
Why, and slightly off topic, maybe not, why do you think the use tax went up so significantly from 22 and 23 and then 24?
And you will not see that again. We worried about that ourselves, is why that there was that large of an increase. There were some purchases made by a local company. We don't know what company that is. That's the state won't give you that information. But we had them check it, and they had made some large purchases that were use tax allocable, for use tax allocation, and that's why it went up. Otherwise, we don't see those every year. Yeah, so it'll come back down to more normal levels, but, and you kind of see where those levels are in the past years.
Those use taxes go into general funds?
Yeah.
I know there was talk of that opioid lawsuit a while back. Is the city entitled to any of the collection of that if the county got in on that?
We are, but it would have to be allocated for certain,
projects?
yeah, it has to do something with either education or rehabilitation, something along those lines. I have not been approached. I haven't seen anything, haven't heard anything.
Nothing as far as supplies or anything that, Arcan or anything?
Just thinking of offsetting in our budget. It's budgeted towards the fight against narcotics.
If we weren't a part of those lawsuits, I haven't seen anything where we're a part of that where we would be getting payments.
The same, I think it counts if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I know like in St. Francis County, the county controls it all, and there's like a grant type process that you can apply for.
Yeah, but I know when I was in Harrisonville, we actually became part of a class action lawsuit on that. So I don't know if the county would allocate funds to help at that or not. Yeah. So is the general feeling that you want us to put back in the 2% COLA raise?
I would like to see it back in.
Because it does include right now a 1% step.
Yeah.
So that would add, if you did the 2% COLA, you said that was another 33,000.
Yes.
Certainly hate to stomp on that, but again, to Bob's earlier point, we do have a fire department of volunteers that we should think about doing something for.
So we did something last year for the volunteers, increasing the allocation for their yearly stipend that they get from the city. And then also for those employees that are paid monthly because of the work they do down there.
Right.
They also got an increase.
Yeah, no good answer to that.
I mean, we also gave the police the take-home cars too.
Correct.
That was enacted in this budget year. I don't know if we can quantify that cost. I mean, we probably could get close, but
We're looking at that since we haven't had a full year yet to see what those costs are. But we've anticipated about a $10,000 increase.
nothing crazy, but.
No. No, but it adds up. It's just one of the other.
And that's within 30 miles.
Do our officers do that,
Do what?
the 30-mile thing, all of them?
Live within the 30 miles?
Right.
Correct.
But there are other employees outside of the police department. We should give take-home cars to all the city knows to.
Oh, gosh.
Now we're talking.
Don't you walk to work? We'll put a shoe stipend in.
Bike that's been sitting outside in the parking lot back there.
Get you an e-bike.
Oh, that's good.
There you go.
I'll allocate that.
I don't think I'm allowed to make money.
Maybe the ARPA funds can pay for that.
Hey, that's a thought.
If we get a tourism department golf cart. Then I can take people around.
Interesting.
Give them a little iPad.
Have one you can use.
Yeah.
If you don't come back next year with a golf court request, I'm gonna be upset.
We got one.
Police department's got
We got one.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Police departments.
I so said, use it, it needs rain.
Doesn't have red and blue lights on it, does it?
It does.
I don't know.
We're in an emergency.
Can I take it to the bank in a minute?
Absolutely. As long as, he's gonna be the gatekeeper of it now.
To the bank. On 2 minutes.
Already in budget.
Yeah. I mean, if we add in the COLA,
It's gonna.
if we add in,
It's gonna change that percentage down.
change some funds at the fire department, we, plus the other ones, it's not gonna be at 40% anymore, it's gonna be in the 30%, 32%, 33%.
Yep.
So we need to. I mean, it's one thing going from 50 to 40, but 50 to 30. You would think that there's light at the end of the tunnel in 2 or 3 or 4 years, but until they get here. Nobody has that crystal ball.
No, we hope we see increases in tax revenue as well, but it's slow.
Is there some impact to credit ratings or anything with that change?
No, as long as we have something adopted, that's what they want to look at. Make sure that you're trying to keep a reserve in there. Again, that's why, and these are cities that also have good credit ratings. So they may be 25%, 30%, yeah.
You know of cities with a bigger budget than ours that are at a 25%.
I think a lot more of your larger cities, and then, you're talking some of them, multi-millions, multi-hundreds of millions.
Yeah, easier to move a needle.
Could we move over enough from the capital funds to cover those, the chief salary and the COLA and still do the 30 or the 40% ordinance?
What I don't want to do is use that for salaries. We could cover, yes, as long as that's the intention. I don't want to move it over because we're trying to make payments in that case.
No.
Because I don't think that's good use of those funds.
No.
Okay, all right. But yeah, I can do a combination of stuff, Yeah.
In legislative, there's a line for economic development services. Is that the chamber? Or,
We used to pay out of that. We don't do anymore. Or is that in the legislative?
yes,
Okay, so that pays for chamber, Parkland Ready.
What's that?
SEMO?
Yeah, CMO RPC. Yeah.
Why do we have so much money in there?
And what?
Why do we have so much money in there?
How much is it?
18,800.
6 was chamber, 25 was SEMO.
There's two chamber, is there regular dues and then,
The regular dues comes out of like memberships.
oh, okay.
Is
Meetings.
that Parkland REDI factor into that?
Yes.
2,500.
There was a reason for that, because I know we were doing those 3 items. There was something else. I don't have it written down.
Is there a total cost that we pay to the courthouse, to the assessor and for the fees that we pay them?
It depends on what kind of tax total that you have. It's a percentage based on that.
And that rate is set by,
County. I think it's state statute what they can charge, if I'm not mistaken. We can look that up, but I think it's state.
What's allowed?
Right.
can you do some research on
We need some research, yeah.
what we pay and what's allowed and where we're at? Maybe we can negotiate with the county or fees that they're charging us.
They can also say they don't want to do it anymore, and then we have
Yeah.
the recourses that we have to start doing it.
Sure. Maybe it'd be cheaper for us to do it. Bring it back in-house. I don't know. I doubt it, but
Angry mom doesn't have to go to 2 places to pay that.
yeah, it's very convenient, but
He was a 6 city hall employees.
We'd have to add on to City Hall for another office for them.
Aaron's gonna not be able to get to work, so we'll just use Aaron's office because he's.
Get an office and they kick you out. I know, we got the way I treated.
And you can go street department.
See? Yeah. There you go.
I wonder if economic development, we included not visit widget, but Placer AI. I wonder if we put that in there.
My notes don't.
No. My notes only have the chamber, so
That's what mine, isn't that what you said mine show?
Yeah, mine is also includes for chamber, so I'm wondering if that's where we put the Placer AI. Because that was the idea, was that it would be for economic development.
What about something?
What was Placer AI, 8,000? 5,000? Yeah, I bet that's where it is.
We just got an increase in our city attorney fees. There's legal services in judicial expense and judicial.
Yeah.
Historically, we haven't been spending that whole, we budgeted 25 last year and budgeted 25 this year. We're only at 17,000 this year. We use 19 and 23 and 20 and 22. It's a very small amount, but I mean, there's $5,000 there that we could pull out of legal services under judicial.
Yeah, we can pull it out of that.
That's general, right?
Yep.
Judicial.
Yep. There is. I don't think you heard it.
He did.
Tomorrow.
I will be for sure.
That was frustrating.
It was.
And that area that they also, if they're editing the Philippines, and it happens. They're like, oh, opposite S, opposite, so it's there.
Takes, kind of looks like an ad silence.
Okay. What's everybody's thought?
You had talked earlier that you might, and I'm glad the paper left, so I don't get too much emails, but
Remember, it's still live on TV.
yeah, you didn't speak about the special road district. Have we had any conversation with, is there any partnership coming up this year on?
Yeah, so Special Road is looking at paving Creek. Creek Road, Creek and Wilder is what we have in the city. So they want to do $25,000 worth of extra that they'll do inside city limits. I'm not sure what that amount is going to actually entail, where it's going to be from point to point, but Special Road District is talking about doing that.
No ways probably to get too creative with that.
No, because if we want to take it all the way up to Biltmore, which is what we want to do with that road, that would probably require that we expend money for that, because we won't have things, because they want to do it this fall. We're not going to have anything ready to go for Prop S at that point.
So it's just gonna be whatever they're gonna do is probably just an overlay then?
I would imagine.
All right, so do we want to try to wrap this up tonight, formally make a decision, or you want some time to think?
I've made my couple of recommendations.
Yep.
Same here.
So what we can do is bring back a budget next Thursday that has some of these recommendations included in there. You'll see what the bottom line is, see where we are financially. We can make some changes after that. So we have a 5 Thursday month. We can have an extra meeting before Memorial Day, or we wait until September and you could meet the first week of September if we have any changes that need to be made and you want to approve them before we start reading. It's either that or we meet on the first Thursday, I'm sorry, not the first Thursday, the first regular meeting on second Thursday. And we go over those numbers and approve that. And then at the next meeting, you'd have to read it twice because it has to be adopted before October 1st.
Especially something like that. I think Joe Stein will agree.
And we haven't in the past.
Read it twice and I just looked at Joe.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna have 5 meetings and we're, there's plenty of time for input on.
So you're saying if we came back after next week's meeting and made a decision, then we would have to,
29th is the next Thursday. So it would be the September 12th would be the first meeting in September. But that's when you'd want to have your first reading.
so you could do a first reading on the 12th and a second reading on the 26th and be done?
Yep.
Assuming we were good after next week's meeting, correct?
Yes.
And that would not take a separate meeting in between the two?
If we finalize it at the next meeting and we finalize how we want to approach that, if we're going to transfer money over, we're going to also pass an ordinance. We do multiple things. Then we can, we'll have the 2 meetings, 2 regular meetings in September. We won't have to meet any extra.
Is everybody good with that tentative timeline?
Say it again.
Okay, so the idea would be Happy's going to make revisions based on the discussion tonight, bring back an updated proposal, and we can take a look at it in a work session at next week's meeting, the 22nd of August. Assuming we come to an agreement there, then we could have a first reading on the 12th and a second reading on the 26th of September.
And then we have to have a special one in between there. We can, yeah. I don't know what Happy's gonna bring back in a week, though, when we're short 300. I mean, are we gonna change the ordinance?
Well, I think it's trending towards that.
I think there's a combination, as Alderman Bennett pointed out. It's like you might want to transfer some money back over from capital projects and reduce the requirement of 50%.
Because we're gonna be 32% if we don't change the ordinance and bring some money back over.
Yep.
Will you have 2 proposals then with the COLA raise?
You tell me what you want. Otherwise, all I was going to bring back is just a COLA raise. If you want something without that, if you want to compare the two.
Just the COLA raise and then the revisions, just the minor revisions we made.
Was that COLA raise and the part-time chief?
Can you just recap the highlights of?
Yeah, let's start there.
I think my recommendation would be for part-time. Or at least the placeholder.
So we're going to reallocate money from ARPA that's in the administration fund. We're going to reallocate that to radios. We're going to have Jason come and talk to us about dispatch fees, see if ARPA can be used for blah, blah, blah. Okay, opioid.
Were we going to fully fund the radios? Hold on. We're going to fully fund the radios?
I think we should do.
And I'll try.
That's what I had thought.
I think
I'll try to get an answer this week to see if dispatch is still on track for a switch over.
Okay.
In January. If they're not, if it's going to be pushed back another year, we can push that back.
Okay.
The regulars work, it's just getting them compliant.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
So I'll try to confirm.
Yeah, because there was 5,100 going from the ARPA down to that, and I
But then
think
there also was.
we also 6,000 from cybersecurity.
right.
Okay, to fully fund the rates. Just to clarify.
So then part-time fire chief at 32,000, and then the 3% raise, or not, I'm sorry, 2% COLA raise.
I think that's probably good. I would come back to this new paid position for the fire chief. That 32,000 comes with X amount of hours, I guess, and however we structure that
We
position.
had talked about that.
Yeah, I'm sure, I know you guys had, that was before my time, but
Description.
Absolutely. The
I
whole
think
shoot
now it's
match.
been about 30 hours a week.
yeah. If we,
If I can, whenever I requested that, looking at is the average fire chief for a small community makes about 60,000 for a full-time position. And I was looking at doing 24 hours a week for half of,
Yeah.
so like half of the hours for half of the pay is what I was proposing, not 24 hours for the 30.
I would ask the board to maybe entertain maybe a slightly smaller number for that position and maybe less hours. And then take maybe $6,000 or $8,000 of that, and maybe fund the fire chief at 24,000 and then give 8,000 to the tourism department for some additional marketing. We're still same numbers, but maybe just not put as much hours in the fire chief position. Maybe somewhere like 24,000 for the part-time chief position and maybe not fully half-time, 24 hours, maybe 18 hours, where he would be able to, or she, would be something like that.
I've got one question, how this flows through. You know, we allocated under the water and sewer department, both major expenditures for motor vehicle. I think the sewer was 175. Wasn't that for the vac truck?
That is for the back truck, yes.
Yeah, but we have nothing for 2025 proposed. That truck's gonna come in.
The truck is scheduled to come in September 6th.
Oh,
Cross your fingers.
It was August
Right.
26th, now it's September 4th.
so if it comes in, right,
It'll be reallocated, have to reallocate it to the next budget year. For both of those, because it's half of it's coming out of water, half of it's out of sewer.
Those are the dedicated funds anyway, we can't really move too much.
Okay. All right, thank you, Hank.
Thank you all. Well, this wasn't easy. I'm sorry to bring you this type of budget to you, but
The question is, how do we get revenues up? You know, it's tough to cut stuff. The question is, how do we generate more revenue?
Do you see one?
Oh, my gosh.
we just have to watch the budget a little better this year, a little tighter.
All right, thanks, thanks to Happy for putting all this together. Pam and Sue for,
It's not just me, it's also the department heads that put time
and
in.
thanks to everybody for being here. And
always the fun time of the year.
with that, we will adjourn.